Pop stars can't really dance. It's all gimmicks and flash, not real technique. The Broadway choreographer crosses his arms, watching Michael Jackson warm up in the studio, dismissing him before seeing him move. But what happens in the next 45 seconds doesn't just prove him wrong, it forces him to completely redefine what dance means and who gets to be called a real dancer. This is the story of how elite gatekeeping met raw talent and lost. New York City, March 1987, Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m., a prestigious Broadway dance studio on West 44th Street. Michael Jackson, 28 years old, is preparing for the Bad Tour, has rented the studio for rehearsal space. He's working with his own team, but the studio owner, Vincent Shaw, 55, legendary Broadway choreographer, 3 Tony Awards, 4 decades in theater, happens to be teaching a class next door. During a break, Vincent walks past Michael's studio, glances through the window, sees Michael stretching, warming up. Vincent's assistant, Julia, mentions that Michael Jackson is rehearsing. Vincent snorts dismissively. Pop star, probably just practicing camera tricks. Julia is surprised by his tone. Vincent is usually respectful of all dancers, but something about Michael Jackson seems to trigger his elitist instincts. He's actually really talented, Julia says carefully. The moonwalk alone. The moonwalk is a gimmick, Vincent interrupts. Clever illusion for MTV, not real dance. Real dance is ballet, modern jazz technique taught in studios like this for decades. Pop choreography is just entertainment, not art. Julia knows Vincent holds strict distinctions between legitimate dance and commercial performance. He teaches aspiring Broadway performers, views theater dance as higher art than music video choreography. In his world, there's a hierarchy: ballet at the top, then modern dance, then Broadway jazz, and somewhere far below, pop music performance. Michael studied with, Julia starts. I'm sure he studied, Vincent says. But studying doesn't make you a dancer. Discipline makes you a dancer. Years of training in proper technique, not learning moves for a 3-minute video. He's never actually watched Michael perform, beyond brief MTV clips, never analyzed his technique, never considered that someone from pop music could have legitimate dance training. His dismissal is based on category, not observation. Michael's choreographer, Vincent Patterson, no relation, steps out of the rehearsal studio, overhears the conversation. He knows Vincent Shaw's reputation, knows his snobbery about commercial dance. Mr. Shaw, Vincent Patterson says politely. Would you like to watch rehearsal? Michael's working on some complex combinations. I'm busy, Shaw says, but there's curiosity underneath the dismissal. Just 5 minutes, Patterson presses. Professional courtesy, you might see something interesting. Shaw hesitates, then agrees, partly out of curiosity, partly out of politeness to a fellow choreographer. They enter the studio. Michael is center floor, wearing black pants, white t-shirt, reviewing notes with his dancers. He looks up, sees Vincent Shaw, recognizes him immediately. Everyone in dance knows Vincent Shaw. Mr. Shaw, Michael says. Respectful, it's an honor. I've seen your work on Broadway. West Side Story's revival was incredible. Shaw nods, acknowledges the compliment, but remains guarded. Thank you. I hear you're preparing for a tour. Bad Tour starts in September, working on the choreography now. Pop tour choreography, Shaw says. And there's subtle condescension in how he emphasizes pop. Must be simpler than what you're used to, Vincent, he says to Patterson. Patterson, who's choreographed both Broadway and music videos, bristles slightly. Actually, it's quite complex. Michael's combinations require, I'm sure they're fine for what they are. Shaw interrupts, but let's be honest. Pop star choreography is about spectacle, not technique. It's gimmicks and flash, camera tricks, designed for audiences who don't know real dance. Michael is very still, absorbing the insult without reaction. His dancers shift uncomfortably. Real dance, Shaw continues, warming to his subject, requires years of classical training, understanding of form, ability to execute complex technique consistently. Ballet dancers, modern dancers, Broadway performers, they're real dancers. Pop performers are entertainers. Different category entirely. You don't think I'm a real dancer, Michael says quietly. Not a question, an observation. I think you're an excellent entertainer. Shaw responds, and it's clear he means it as a distinction, even an insult. Very successful at what you do, but what you do isn't real dance. It's performance. There's a difference. Vincent Patterson is about to defend Michael, but Michael raises his hand slightly, stopping him. There's something in Michael's expression, a decision being made. Would you like to see what I'm working on? Michael asks Shaw. Then you can judge whether it's real dance or just gimmicks. Shaw, cornered by his own elitism, can't refuse without looking cowardly. Sure, show me what you've got. Michael turns to his sound engineer. Play the smooth criminal sequence. Full speed. The music starts, that distinctive bass line, and Michael explodes into movement. What happens in the next 45 seconds destroys every assumption Vincent Shaw walked in with. Michael doesn't just dance. He executes a combination that blends ballet technique, modern dance isolations, jazz performance, and street dance vocabulary into something entirely new. His footwork is precise, weight shifts perfect, lines clean. He hits a triple pirouette, lands in a jazz split, pops up into a complex rhythmic sequence that isolates different body parts simultaneously. Then he does something that makes Shaw's breath catch. Michael executes a series of movements that could be straight from a Bob Fosse routine. Shoulder rolls, hip isolations, syncopated rhythms, but faster, sharper, with added difficulty that Fosse never attempted. He transitions into classical ballet positions, releve to attitude to arabesque, holding each with perfect form, then drops into street-style popping, every muscle control visible. The 45-second sequence demonstrates mastery of at least 5 different dance disciplines, executed at performance speed, with 0 mistakes, every movement precise, every transition clean. He's not just doing gimmicks, he's showing range that most Broadway dancers couldn't match. Michael finishes the sequence, holds the final pose, breathing hard but controlled. The music stops, complete silence in the studio. Shaw is staring, mouth slightly open, everything he believed about pop dancers being challenged by what he just witnessed. That combination, Shaw finally says, voice different now, professional respect creeping in. That transition from classical to contemporary to street, where did you learn that? I've been training since I was 5, Michael says, not boastful, just factual. Ballet, jazz, modern tap, street. I studied because I love dance, all forms of it. I don't believe in hierarchy. Dance is dance, the isolation work, Shaw continues. That level of body control, that's advanced modern technique. Where'd you study? Various teachers. I also watch, study, adapt. Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, James Brown, Katherine Dunham, Jerome Robbins. I don't distinguish between legitimate and commercial dance. If it moves people, if it's technically excellent, it's real. Shaw is quiet, processing. Everything he just said about pop dancers being inferior has been demolished by 45 seconds of performance. Do it again, Shaw says. Slower, I want to see the technique breakdown. Michael does. This time Shaw watches with professional eye, analyzing technique not spectacle, and what he sees is undeniable. Classical training, modern mastery, jazz precision, all integrated seamlessly. When Michael finishes, Shaw walks closer. I owe you an apology. I dismissed you based on category, not ability. That was ignorant. What you just demonstrated, Shaw continues. That's not gimmick, that's virtuosity. You're integrating disciplines that most dancers keep separate. You're creating new vocabulary. Thank you, Michael says. Genuine appreciation for the acknowledgement. But I have a question, Shaw says. Why pop music? With your technique, you could be on Broadway, in prestigious dance companies. Why choose commercial performance? Michael considers this. Because more people see it. Because a kid in a small town, with no access to Broadway, can turn on MTV and see dance. Because I want to democratize what you're calling legitimate dance. Make it accessible. Show people that dance isn't just for elite audiences in theaters. It's for everyone. That's why you put classical technique in music videos. Shaw asks, understanding dawning. That's exactly why. I'm teaching millions of people to recognize good technique by embedding it in popular culture. They might not know they're watching modern dance isolations, but they're learning to appreciate them. Shaw is quiet, then says something that surprises everyone. That's brilliant. And I've been an elitist fool, trying to preserve some imaginary purity that doesn't exist. He turns to Vincent Patterson. You said professional courtesy. I came in here ready to condescend. Instead I got schooled. Thank you for that. To Michael, would you be willing to teach a master class at my studio? My students should see this. should understand that the boundaries they're being taught, Broadway versus commercial, legitimate versus popular, those boundaries are artificial. Michael agrees. 2 weeks later, he teaches a 3-hour masterclass at Vincent Shaw's studio. 40 advanced dance students, most preparing for Broadway careers, most carrying the same elitist assumptions Shaw had. Michael doesn't lecture about theory. He demonstrates, shows them how street dance incorporates modern technique, how pop choreography requires classical precision, how the moonwalk is actually a sophisticated weight shift exercise that requires ballet-level balance. He teaches them combinations that blend everything, pop, classical, street, jazz, and challenges them to execute. Most struggle. They're trained in one discipline, maybe two, but integrating 5 simultaneously, while maintaining commercial appeal. That's harder than they expected. One student, Sarah, classically trained ballerina, asks, "How do you make it look easy?" The transitions between styles should be jarring, but they're seamless. Because I don't see them as different styles, Michael explains. I see them as different languages, saying the same thing. Dance is communication. Ballet communicates. Street dance communicates. They're just different vocabularies. When you stop defending one against the other, you can speak both fluently. Vincent Shaw, watching from the side, realizes something profound. His entire career has been built on gatekeeping, on maintaining distinctions between serious dance and commercial performance. But those distinctions serve gatekeepers, not dance itself. They create artificial scarcity, make dance seem exclusive, inaccessible. Michael is doing the opposite. Taking the most sophisticated technique and making it populist, not dumbing it down, but presenting it in contexts where regular people encounter it. After the masterclass, Shaw pulls Michael aside. "I spent 40 years protecting dance from commercialization, but you're doing something more important. You're protecting dance from irrelevance. By making it commercial, you're making it immortal. I just want everyone to dance," Michael says simply. "Everyone to feel like they can. That's why I perform the way I do." Shaw starts incorporating Michael's approach in his own teaching, stops dismissing commercial choreography, starts showing his students music videos alongside ballet performances, teaching them to analyze technique, regardless of context. 1991, Shaw is interviewed for Dance magazine, asked about changes in dance culture. He talks about Michael Jackson, about the masterclass, about his own elitism being challenged. "I told Michael Jackson that pop stars can't really dance," Shaw admits in the interview. "Then he showed me 45 seconds of movement that integrated more disciplines than I could teach in a semester. He didn't just prove me wrong, he showed me I was gatekeeping art for no good reason." Dance isn't dying, Shaw continues, it's evolving. And the people keeping it alive aren't the ones protecting its purity. They're the ones like Michael, democratizing it, making it accessible, putting classical technique in contexts where millions see it instead of hundreds. The interview becomes influential in dance education circles. Other choreographers start questioning the hierarchy, the artificial boundaries between commercial and legitimate dance. 2009, Michael dies. Vincent Shaw, now 77, retired but still influential, writes a tribute. "Michael Jackson did for dance what jazz did for music, took it from the elite, and gave it to everyone. 45 seconds in my studio taught me more about art's purpose than 40 years on Broadway. He made dance immortal by making it popular. That's not selling out. That's genius." Shaw attends the memorial, sits with other choreographers who Michael influenced, and they share stories of their own elitism being challenged, their own boundaries being pushed. What art are you gatekeeping right now? What category are you dismissing without actually examining? Vincent Shaw told Michael Jackson that pop stars can't really dance. 45 seconds later, every assumption shattered. Shaw had spent 40 years defending boundaries that served gatekeepers, not art. Michael didn't argue, he demonstrated. Showed that the hierarchy was artificial, that dance is dance regardless of context, that making art accessible doesn't diminish it. Elite doesn't mean better. Popular doesn't mean inferior. Sometimes the person you're dismissing is doing something more sophisticated than you can recognize, because you're blinded by category. Who have you written off based on category? What expertise are you missing, because it comes in unexpected packaging? 45 seconds. One combination. One choreographer. learning that his entire framework was wrong. Maybe it's time to question your framework too.